The stars looked peaceful from Admiral Sarah Chen's office window on Luna Station. She watched Earth slowly turn in the distance, its blue oceans catching the sunlight. Most people found the view calming. Sarah did not. She knew what was coming. The message had arrived 3 hours ago from the Galactic Council, the same message that had been sent to dozens of worlds before they were conquered. The same message that meant the end of freedom for any species that received it. Admiral Chen, her aide Lieutenant Brooks, entered the room. The council representatives are here. Sarah nodded and walked to the meeting room. 3 aliens waited for her. The first was tall and made of living crystal that caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. This was Ambassador Kethtar from the Zephyrian Empire. The second looked like a giant insect with too many eyes and clicking mandibles. This was Drone Prime Zix from the Hive Collective. The third was harder to see clearly, like looking at heat waves rising from hot pavement. This was Thoughtform Nexus from the Ethereal Dominion. Admiral Chen, Kethtar spoke with a voice like breaking glass. We bring greetings from the Galactic Council. Sarah sat down across from them. I know why you're here. Then you know this can be simple. Zix clicked its mandibles. Your species has been granted the honor of serving the greater galactic community. You mean slavery? Sarah said. The heat wave alien rippled. Such crude terms. We prefer to call it guided development. Sarah had studied these 3 empires her whole career. The Zephyrians had conquered 12 star systems by convincing primitive species that crystal technology was magic. The Hive Collective absorbed entire worlds into their collective mind. The Ethereal Dominion simply erased the personalities of those they conquered, leaving empty shells that followed orders. What do you want? Sarah asked. Kethtar projected a hologram of the solar system. Red markers appeared around all human settlements beyond Earth. These mining colonies, research stations, and habitats will be transferred to Council control. The human population will be relocated to designated areas where they can be properly educated. And if we refuse? Zix made a sound like laughing if insects could laugh. Look around you, Admiral. Your ships are pathetic. Your weapons are primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. 500 of our finest warships wait at the edge of your system. What could you possibly do against such power? Sarah looked at each of them. These aliens had conquered worlds for thousands of years. They had turned proud civilizations into slave races. They had never met serious resistance because they always picked on species weaker than themselves. You've done your research on us, Sarah said. Tell me, what did you find? A young species, Nexus replied, its voice echoing strangely. Barely 300 years in space. Limited to 1 star system. Technology based on primitive fusion and chemical rockets. No energy weapons worth mentioning. No shields that could stop our simplest attacks. And you think that's all there is to humanity? What else could there be? Kethtar asked. We have watched your species for 50 years. We know your capabilities. Sarah smiled for the first time since the meeting began. You know what we wanted you to know. The 3 aliens looked at each other. Confusion rippled through Nexus's form. Admiral, Zix clicked. You seem to misunderstand your situation. We are offering you a chance to surrender peacefully. Your alternative is extinction. I understand perfectly, Sarah stood up. You see, there's something about humans you didn't learn from your 50 years of watching. We don't like bullies. And when someone threatens our home, we get creative. She walked to the window and looked down at Earth. You want to know what humans have been doing for the past 50 years? We've been preparing. Not for exploration, not for trade, for war. Impossible. Kethtar's crystal body flared brighter. Our sensors would have detected any major construction. Would they? Sarah asked. Tell me, how carefully did you scan our ocean floors? What about the asteroid belt? Did you check inside every single rock? The aliens were silent now. You see, we learned something important when we first detected your civilizations. We learned that the galaxy is full of species like you. Species that think strength comes from having the biggest guns and the fastest ships. But humans? We think strength comes from being ready for anything. Sarah activated a wall display. It showed what looked like a normal view of Earth's Pacific Ocean. Computer, remove visual filters. The image changed. Beneath the waves, massive structures became visible. City-sized installations connected by tunnels that stretched across the ocean floor. Docks that could hold ships larger than anything the aliens had ever built. 50 years ago, humanity made a choice, Sarah continued. We could try to match your technology, or we could develop our own path. We chose to go deeper. Literally. The ocean floor installations were just the beginning. The display showed the inside of asteroids that had been completely hollowed out and filled with factories. It showed space stations hidden in the shadows of Jupiter's moons. It showed construction yards that dwarfed anything in known space. You thought we were primitive because we used fusion and chemical rockets, Sarah said. You were right. We do use those things. But we also learned how to bend space, manipulate gravity, and do things with quantum physics that your scientists think are impossible. Drone Prime 6 made rapid clicking sounds. It was communicating with the Hive fleet, trying to get new sensor readings of the solar system. Your ships won't detect anything new, Sarah told it. We're very good at hiding things. But since you're here with an ultimatum, I think it's time for humanity to stop hiding. She pressed a button on her desk. This is Admiral Chen to Deep Command. Execute Protocol Rising. The ocean image on the screen began to change. The water itself seemed to be moving, rising up in impossible ways. Something vast was coming to the surface. What have you done? Nexus whispered. We built something, Sarah said simply. Humans are very good at building things, especially when we're angry. The ocean bulged upward like a mountain was rising from the sea floor. Water cascaded in waterfalls as something enormous broke the surface. It kept rising, and rising, and rising. That's impossible, Kethtar said. Nothing that large could function as a spacecraft. Why not? Sarah asked. You never asked us what we thought was possible. You just assumed we thought like you. The thing rising from Earth's ocean was bigger than most space stations. It was shaped like a massive triangle, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As it cleared the water completely, it became clear that this was not just a ship. It was a mobile city. Meet the ESS Prometheus, Sarah said. Humanity's first deep space battleship. And before you ask, no, it's not our only one. The three aliens stared at the display in shock. Their sensors were finally picking up energy readings from the massive vessel, and the numbers didn't make sense. You have 6 hours to remove your fleet from our solar system, Sarah continued. If you're still here after that, we'll remove it for you. You cannot threaten the combined might of 3 galactic empires. 6 clicked angrily. I'm not threatening anyone, Sarah replied calmly. I'm giving you a chance to leave peacefully. The same chance you gave us. She looked at each of them again. You wanted to know what humans could do against your power? Now you'll find out. The galaxy is about to learn why you should never underestimate the species that dreams of reaching the stars. The Prometheus was fully clear of the ocean now, hanging in Earth's sky like a second moon. Other shapes were beginning to rise from different parts of the ocean. The asteroid belt was lighting up with previously hidden installations coming online. Your move, Sarah said. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus and watched the alien fleet through the main display. 500 warships hung in space at the edge of the solar system, ships that had conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations, ships that thought they were about to add Earth to their list of victories. They were wrong. Captain, his tactical officer Lieutenant Park called out, the alien fleet is moving. They're heading for Earth, Marcus nodded. He had expected this. The 3 empires were not used to being told no. They were used to primitive species cowering before their superior technology. They were not used to seeing something like the Prometheus rise from the depths of an ocean. Any response to our warning? Marcus asked. Yes, sir, Communications Officer Davies replied. I'm putting it on screen now. The bridge display changed to show 3 alien faces. The crystal being looked angry, its body flaring with bright light. The insect creature was clicking its mandibles rapidly, the energy being rippled with what might have been rage. Human vessel. The crystal alien spoke first. I am Fleet Commander Vexoth of the Zephyrian Empire. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The insect alien stepped forward. I am War Prime Clickthak of the Hive Collective. Your resistance is futile. Submit now and your deaths will be quick. The energy being's voice echoed strangely. I am Battlemind Zephyr of the Ethereal Dominion. Your ship is impressive for a primitive species, but it cannot stand against the combined might of 3 empires. Marcus looked at his crew. They were all young, all human, all ready for this moment. They had trained their entire lives for this day. The day when humanity would stand up to the galaxy's bullies. Open a channel, Marcus ordered. The display switched to show him standing on the Prometheus bridge. Behind him, the massive command center stretched away in all directions. Hundreds of crew members worked at stations that monitored systems the aliens couldn't even imagine. "This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the Earth Space Service vessel Prometheus," he said calmly. "You were given 6 hours to leave our solar system. You have chosen not to do so. This is unfortunate." "Unfortunate?" Vexoth laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "Human, do you see our fleet? 500 ships of the line. Each one could destroy your pathetic world single-handed." "I see them," Marcus replied. "I also see that you've never faced anything like this before." He gestured to his tactical officer. "Mr. Park, show them what they're really facing." The Prometheus had been rising from Earth's ocean for the past hour. Now it was time to show these aliens what human engineering could really accomplish. Park's fingers danced over his controls, and the ship's true capabilities began to reveal themselves. The Prometheus was not just large. It was massive beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. As it moved away from Earth, its full size became clear. It was 15 kilometers long, 8 kilometers wide, and 4 kilometers thick. It was not just a ship. It was a flying fortress that could house 1 million people. Impossible. Warprime clicked. No vessel that size could function. The power requirements alone. "You're thinking like aliens," Marcus said. "Humans think differently." The ship's hull began to change. What had looked like smooth metal surfaces now revealed themselves to be covered in weapons, thousands of them. Energy cannons that could punch through planetary shields, missile launchers that could fire rounds the size of buildings, point defense systems that could track and destroy incoming attacks faster than any alien computer could calculate. But the weapons were not the most impressive part. The most impressive part was what happened when the Prometheus engaged its drive systems. Space around the ship began to bend. The alien sensors went crazy as gravity waves rippled out from the human vessel. The Prometheus was not using rockets or energy drives like every other ship in the galaxy. It was manipulating space itself. "By the Crystal Throne," Vexoth whispered. "They're using controlled gravitational fields." "That's impossible," Battlemind Zephyr said. "No species has mastered gravitational manipulation to that degree." "You keep saying things are impossible," Marcus replied. "Maybe you should expand your definition of possible." The alien fleet had stopped advancing. Their sensors were trying to understand what they were seeing, but human technology was based on principles they had never encountered. Where alien science focused on brute force and raw power, human science focused on efficiency and elegance. "You want to know how we did it?" Marcus asked. "We cheated. While you were building bigger guns, we were rewriting the laws of physics. While you were making faster ships, we were learning to fold space. While you were conquering primitive worlds, we were preparing for you." Lieutenant Park looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm detecting weapons lock from the alien fleet." "They're preparing to fire," Marcus sighed. "I was hoping they would be smarter than this." He turned back to the display showing the 3 alien commanders. "This is your last chance. Leave now and no one has to die today." "Die?" Warprime clicked angrily. "You are 1 ship against 500. Even with your size, you cannot possibly win." "You're right," Marcus said. "1 ship probably couldn't win against 500. He smiled. "Good thing we didn't just build 1 ship." All around the solar system, space began to ripple. The asteroid belt lit up as hidden installations came online. The moons of Jupiter revealed concealed shipyards. Saturn's rings parted to show massive defense platforms that had been hiding among the ice and rock. And from Earth's oceans, more shapes began to rise. Ships that were smaller than the Prometheus but still larger than anything the aliens had ever built. Cruisers that could reshape themselves during battle. Destroyers that could phase in and out of normal space. Fighters that moved like they were alive. "Meet the Earth Defense Fleet," Marcus announced. Every ship designed and built by humans who were tired of being afraid. The alien fleet was in chaos now. Their sensors couldn't keep track of all the new contacts appearing throughout the solar system. Ships were appearing from hiding places they had never detected. Weapons platforms were coming online with energy signatures that broke their understanding of physics. "This is impossible," Vexoth shouted. "You're a primitive species. How could you build all this?" "Because you taught us something important," Marcus replied. "You taught us that the galaxy is full of species like you. Species that think might makes right. Species that prey on the weak." The human fleet was fully deployed now. Hundreds of ships of sizes and designs the aliens had never seen. Each one incorporating technology that shouldn't exist. Each one crewed by humans who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. So we decided to make sure we would never be weak again. Marcus continued. We spent 50 years building, 50 years preparing, 50 years getting ready for the day when someone like you would come to our home and threaten our families. He looked directly at each of the 3 alien commanders. That day is today. You can leave now with your dignity intact, or you can stay and learn why humans build things to last. Battlemind Zephyr's form rippled with uncertainty. You cannot defeat 3 empires. We're not trying to defeat 3 empires, Marcus said quietly. We're defending our home, and humans will do anything to protect what they love. The Prometheus's main guns began to power up. Energy readings spiked to levels that should have been impossible for any ship to generate. Around the solar system, the rest of the human fleet did the same. Choose quickly, Marcus said, because ready or not, humanity is no longer hiding. The first shot came from the Zephyrian dreadnought Crystal Hammer. A beam of pure energy that could melt through planetary shields struck the Prometheus directly in the center of its hull. The aliens expected to see the human ship break apart under the impact. Instead, the beam seemed to disappear into the ship's hull, like water soaking into sand. What happened? Fleet Commander Vexoth demanded from his bridge. Direct hit with our primary weapon. Why is that ship still intact? His science officer, a smaller crystal being, was frantically checking readings. Commander, the energy from our weapon was absorbed. Their hull seems to be made of some kind of adaptive material. On the Prometheus bridge, Captain Rodriguez watched the tactical display with calm eyes. Damage report, he called out. No damage, Captain, Lieutenant Park replied. The hull absorbed the energy and fed it into our power grid. We're actually running at 103% power now. Marcus nodded. This was exactly what the human engineers had designed the ship to do. While alien technology focused on making bigger weapons and stronger shields, human technology focused on turning an enemy's strength against them. Return fire, Marcus ordered. Show them what their own energy looks like when we send it back. The Prometheus's main cannon charged up using the power from the alien attack. When it fired, the beam that emerged was 3 times more powerful than what had hit them. It struck the crystal hammer and punched straight through its shields like they weren't even there. The Zephyrian dreadnought broke apart in a flash of light and crystal fragments. Impossible! Warprime clicked from his ship. The crystal hammer was our most powerful vessel. Your most powerful vessel just made us stronger. Marcus replied calmly. Would you like to try again? The answer came in the form of 1,000 missiles launched from the Hive collective ships. Each missile was designed to burrow into a target and explode from the inside. They had never failed to destroy their target. They failed today. The Prometheus's point defense systems came online. Hundreds of small weapons tracked the incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. But instead of simply shooting them down, something else happened. The missiles slowed down, stopped, and then turned around. What is happening to our missiles? Clickthak demanded. We're borrowing them, Marcus said. Thank you for the ammunition. The missiles, now under human control, streaked back toward the Hive ships. The aliens tried to shoot down their own weapons, but the human control systems were too fast. The missiles found their targets and the Hive fleet began to take damage from their own attack. Battlemind Zephyr of the Ethereal Dominion decided to try a different approach. Instead of physical weapons, the ethereal ships began to project mental attacks designed to drive the human crew insane. The attack hit the Prometheus and simply bounced off. Mental shields at full strength, reported the ship's psychic officer, Commander Kim. Their attack actually helped us strengthen our defenses. We now have a complete map of their psychic patterns. Can you turn it back on them? Marcus asked. Already working on it, Captain. The human response was not a mental attack. It was something much worse. It was a broadcast of human music, human laughter, human emotions. The pure chaotic creativity of human thought hit the ordered. Ethereal minds like a tsunami. Half the ethereal fleet simply stopped working as their crews became overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of human consciousness. This is impossible. All 3 alien commanders shouted at the same time. You keep using that word, Marcus said. I don't think it means what you think it means. The battle was just beginning. The alien fleets regrouped and began working together, using coordinated attacks that had conquered entire star systems. They threw everything they had at the human ships. The humans responded by doing something no alien species had ever done before. They adapted during the battle. Human ships began changing shape as they fought. Hulls reconfigured themselves to better deflect incoming fire. Weapon systems evolved to counter new threats. The entire human fleet seemed to learn from each attack and become stronger. How are they doing this? Fexoth asked his science officer. Their ships appear to have some kind of adaptive artificial intelligence, the officer replied. But that's not the strangest part. The strangest part is that each ship is learning from all the others. They're sharing information faster than any communication system we've ever seen. What the aliens didn't understand was that human ships were connected by quantum entanglement. Information traveled instantly between vessels no matter how far apart they were. When one ship learned something new, every ship in the fleet learned it at the same time. The Prometheus demonstrated this by suddenly sprouting new weapons that fired bolts of twisted space-time. The bolts passed right through alien shields and armor as if they weren't there, then exploded inside the target ships. Where did those weapons come from? Battlemind Zephyr demanded. We just invented them, Marcus replied. Our manufacturing systems can build new weapons during battle based on what we learn about your defenses. The alien fleets were starting to panic. Nothing in their experience had prepared them for an enemy that became stronger during battle. Every attack they made was studied, analyzed, and countered within minutes. The Hive Collective tried to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers, sending thousands of small attack craft at the human ships. The humans responded by deploying their own fighters. But these were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human fighters moved like living creatures, dodging and weaving through space with impossible grace. They fought in perfect coordination, as if they were all controlled by a single mind. But unlike the rigid control of the Hive Collective, this was a fluid, creative kind of coordination that confused and terrified the alien pilots. Their fighters are not following any known tactical doctrine, a Hive commander reported to Clickthak. They seem to be making up new strategies as they fight. That's because they are, Marcus said, somehow intercepting their communication. Human pilots don't follow doctrine. They improvise. The improvisation was working. Human fighters were outflying ships that should have been faster and more maneuverable. Human capital ships were outgunning vessels that should have had superior firepower. The entire human fleet was operating at a level of efficiency that shouldn't have been possible. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered, Fexoth said to his fellow commanders on a private channel. They're not following the rules of space combat. What rules? Marcus asked, apparently monitoring their private channel as well. We wrote our own rules. The human rules of space combat were simple: adapt, overcome, and never give up. While alien species had spent thousands of years perfecting the same basic tactics, humans had approached warfare from a completely different direction. Human ships could reconfigure themselves during battle. Human weapons could be modified on the fly. Human crews could come up with new strategies faster than alien computers could calculate responses to old ones. This is getting out of hand, Battlemind Zephyr said to the other commanders. We need to coordinate a full assault before they adapt to all our weapons. Agreed, Clickthak clicked. All ships converge on the large human vessel. Concentrate all firepower. The entire alien fleet focused on the Prometheus. 500 ships unleashing their most powerful weapons at the same target. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Prometheus absorbed it all. The ship's adaptive hull drank in the energy from hundreds of different weapon systems. Its defensive systems learned from each attack and became stronger. Its power levels climbed higher and higher as it converted the alien assault into fuel for its own systems. Power levels at 200% and climbing, Lieutenant Park reported. The ship is actually getting stronger from their attacks. Marcus smiled. Then let's show them what happens when humans get angry. The Prometheus began to glow with absorbed energy. Its weapons charged to levels that registered off the scale of alien sensors. And when it finally returned fire, the beam that emerged was not just powerful, it was beautiful. The weapon tore through space itself, creating a rift that passed through dozens of alien ships. The ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by forces that alien science couldn't comprehend. The remaining alien ships stopped firing. Their crews stared in shock at the empty space where their comrades had been. What have you done? Fexoth whispered. We defended our home, Marcus replied simply. And this is just the beginning. The silence in space was broken only by the emergency signals from damaged alien ships. Of the 500 vessels that had entered the solar system with such confidence, less than half remained combat capable. The others drifted powerless, their crews either dead or unconscious from the shock of what they had witnessed. Fleet Commander Vexoth stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The readings made no sense. His flagship, the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, was showing system failures across all major components. Not from battle damage, but from simple overload. His crew's crystal bodies were dim with exhaustion and fear. "Commander," his communications officer said in a voice like cracking ice, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it through," Vexoth said weakly. The bridge display showed Captain Rodriguez standing calmly on the Prometheus bridge. Behind him, human crew members worked at their stations as if nothing unusual had happened. As if they hadn't just destroyed some of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. "This is Captain Rodriguez," the human said. "I'm broadcasting to all surviving ships. You have two choices. You can continue fighting and join your comrades who thought they could threaten Earth, or you can surrender and live to see another day." War Prime Click-Thac's voice cut through the channel. "Surrender? The Hive Collective does not surrender. We will fight until—" His words were cut off as one of the human destroyers appeared directly next to his ship. The human vessel had somehow moved across thousands of kilometers of space in an instant, bypassing every sensor and defense system the Hive had. "Your ship is now targeted by quantum torpedoes," Rodriguez said calmly. "These weapons exist in a state of probability flux until they strike their target. Your shields and armor are irrelevant. You have 30 seconds to decide." Click-Thac looked at his tactical officer, a smaller insect creature whose many eyes were wide with terror. "Can we escape?" "No, War Prime. The human ship is somehow locking our position in space. We cannot move." Battlemind Zephyr's voice rippled through the communication channel. "This is impossible. No species should have technology this advanced." "You're absolutely right," Rodriguez replied. "No species should have this technology. We do anyway. That's what makes us human." The 30 seconds passed in silence. None of the alien commanders spoke. "I'll take that as a surrender," Rodriguez said. "All alien vessels will power down weapons and shields immediately. Any ship that does not comply will be destroyed." One by one, the remaining alien ships shut down their weapons. The pride of 3 galactic empires had been reduced to defeated refugees in the span of a few hours. "Now," Rodriguez continued, "we're going to have a conversation. All command personnel will transport to the Prometheus for negotiations." "We cannot leave our ships," Vexoth protested. "How do we know you won't simply destroy us?" "Because," Rodriguez said with a slight smile, "humans don't kill people who surrender. It's not our way." An hour later, the 3 alien commanders found themselves in the Prometheus's main conference room. The room itself was larger than some space stations, with a ceiling that showed the stars above them. Earth hung in the distance, blue and peaceful, as if the greatest space battle in galactic history had never happened. Admiral Sarah Chen was waiting for them, along with Captain Rodriguez and several other human officers. The aliens were escorted by human marines whose weapons seemed to be made of pure energy. "Please sit down," Admiral Chen said, gesturing to chairs that had been designed to accommodate their different physiologies. The aliens sat reluctantly. They were used to being the ones in control during negotiations. They were used to dictating terms to defeated enemies. This reversal of roles left them confused and uncertain. "Before we begin," Chen said, "I want to be clear about something. You came to our system to conquer us. You threatened our families, our children, our future. Under galactic law, we would be justified in executing all of you as war criminals." The 3 aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "However," Chen continued, "humans believe in second chances. We believe in the possibility of redemption, so we're going to offer you a choice." She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of their fleets. Damaged ships, depleted resources, broken morale. "You can return to your empires as conquerors who met their match," Chen said. "You can tell them that humanity is just another advanced species that got lucky. You can pretend this never happened." Battlemind Zephyr rippled with confusion. "You would let us leave? After what we tried to do? Or," Chen continued, ignoring the question, "you can return to your empires as ambassadors for a new way of thinking. You can help build a galaxy where strength is measured not by the ability to conquer, but by the ability to protect." "What are you saying?" Vexoth asked. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward. "We're saying that this doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of a better one." He activated another display that showed technical specifications for human technology. Not the military applications, but the civilian ones. Faster-than-light communication systems, medical technology that could cure diseases thought incurable, energy systems that could power entire worlds without depleting resources. Humanity is willing to share, Rodriguez said. Not with conquerors, but with partners. War Prime Clickthak's mandibles clicked nervously. You would share your technology with us? After we tried to destroy you? That's what humans do, Chen replied. We build bridges instead of walls. We look for solutions instead of excuses for conflict. She stood up and walked to the window showing Earth. Your species have spent thousands of years conquering and destroying, building empires on the bones of the civilizations you've crushed. How has that worked out for you? The question hung in the air. The aliens had no answer because they knew the truth. Their empires were built on fear and oppression. They ruled through intimidation and violence. They had created a galaxy where the strong preyed on the weak and called it civilization. Humans offer a different path, Chen continued. A path where species work together instead of fighting. Where technology is used to build instead of destroy. Where the measure of a civilization is not how much territory it controls but how well it takes care of its people. And if we refuse? Vexoth asked. Chen turned back to face them. Then you leave and we never speak again. But the next time any of your empires threaten a peaceful species, we'll be there. And next time we might not be feeling so generous. The threat was delivered with the same calm tone Chen had been using throughout the conversation, but the aliens understood. They had seen what human generosity looked like. They didn't want to see what human anger looked like. You're offering us an alliance, Battlemind Zephyr said slowly. We're offering you a chance to be part of something better than what you've built, Rodriguez replied. Something worth building a future around. Clickthak looked at his fellow commanders. The Hive Collective will need time to consider. Of course, Chen said. This is not a decision to be made lightly. Take all the time you need, but understand this. Humanity is not going back into hiding. We're taking our place in the galaxy. The only question is whether we do it as enemies or as friends. She gestured toward the door. Your ships have been repaired enough to make the journey home safely. We've also loaded them with some gifts, food, medical supplies, and a few examples of human technology that might help your people. The aliens stood to leave, still processing what had just happened. They had come to conquer and had been utterly defeated, but instead of being destroyed or enslaved, they were being sent home with gifts. One more thing, Chen called as they reached the door. When you get home, tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that humanity is not like the other species they've conquered. Tell them that we fight differently, we think differently, and we dream differently. She smiled. Tell them that if they want to see the future of the galaxy, they should look to Earth. The three commanders left without another word. They had much to think about on the long journey home, and in the depths of space around Earth, human ships continued their patrol, watching and waiting, ready to defend, ready to help, ready to show the galaxy what it meant to be human. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Sol, as historians were already calling it. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have, predicted Prince Zarketh of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the viewing port of his personal transport as it approached the massive space station orbiting Earth. The station was unlike anything his people had ever built. Where Zephyrian architecture focused on sharp angles and crystal perfection, human design seemed to flow like water, all curves and organic shapes that somehow felt alive. Your Highness? His aide said nervously. Are you certain about this meeting? The Council of Crystals still considers the humans to be dangerous. Zarketh's body pulsed with faint light, a sign of amusement among his people. Of course they're dangerous. That's exactly why we need to understand them. The prince was young by Zephyrian standards, only 300 years old, but he had been the first to recognize what the Battle of Sol really meant. It wasn't just a military defeat. It was proof that the old ways of thinking about power and civilization were wrong. His transport docked with the human station, and Zarketh was greeted by Admiral Chen herself. The human looked exactly as she had during their first meeting, calm and confident. But there was something different about her now. She carried herself like someone who no longer had to prove anything to anyone. Prince Zarketh, Chen said with a slight bow. Welcome to Harmony Station. Admiral Chen, Zarketh replied, his translator converting his crystal song voice into words humans could understand. I must admit, I didn't expect you to meet me personally. When the heir to the Zephyrian throne asks for a private meeting, We pay attention, Chen said with a smile. Please let me show you around. As they walked through the station, Zarketh was amazed by what he saw. The corridors were filled with beings from dozens of different species, all working together. He saw Zephyrians collaborating with humans on some kind of crystal technology. He saw former hive drones working individually, apparently learning to think for themselves. How is this possible? He asked. 3 months ago, these species were trying to kill each other. Turns out most people prefer building things to destroying them, Chen replied. They just needed someone to show them it was possible. They entered a vast chamber where human engineers were working, with alien scientists on projects that defied everything Zarketh thought he knew about physics. In one corner, a mixed team was testing a device that seemed to bend light around itself. In another, researchers were growing what looked like living metal. The Ethereal Dominion's greatest philosophers are working with our quantum physicists, Chen explained. They're developing new theories about the nature of consciousness and reality. The Hive Collective's biological experts are helping us create self-repairing materials, and your people's crystal technology is revolutionizing our communication systems. But why share this knowledge? Zarketh asked. You could have kept your technological advantages to yourselves. Chen stopped walking and looked at him seriously. Because that's not what humans do. We believe that knowledge belongs to everyone. We believe that the galaxy becomes a better place when people work together instead of fighting. They continued their tour, eventually arriving at the station's central hub. Here, Zarketh saw something that made his crystalline form pulse with surprise. It was a memorial wall, covered with names in dozens of different languages and writing systems. Those are the names of everyone who died in the Battle of Sol. Chen explained quietly. Human and alien alike. We remember them all. Even your enemies? They weren't our enemies, Chen said. They were just people who had been taught to think of strength in the wrong way. Among the memorial displays, Zarketh noticed something else that surprised him. There were alien children playing with human children, their parents watching nervously but allowing the interaction. Species that had been enemies for generations were learning to see each other as people instead of threats. How did you do this? Zarketh asked. How did you change everything so quickly? We didn't change anything, Chen replied. We just gave people permission to be better than they thought they could be. She led him to a conference room where several other beings were waiting. Zarketh recognized some of them from intelligence reports. War Prime Clickthak, who had somehow learned to think independently after being freed from the Hive Collective mind. Battlemind Zephyr, whose energy form now flickered with what looked like genuine emotion instead of cold calculation. Prince Zarketh, Admiral Chen said, I'd like you to meet the founders of the Galactic Cooperation Council. Cooperation Council? Zarketh asked. The old Galactic Council was based on dominance and fear, Clickthak explained, his voice no longer carrying the harsh clicking of hive speak. This new council is based on cooperation and mutual benefit. Battlemind Zephyr's form rippled with what Zarketh had learned to recognize as happiness. We're building something that has never existed before. A galactic civilization based on choice instead of force. And it's working, Chen added. Trade routes that were closed for centuries are opening up. Species that were enslaved are free to develop their own cultures. Scientific advances that would have taken millennia are happening in months. She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Zarketh was amazed to see trade ships moving freely between systems that had been at war just months before. Refugee fleets that had been homeless for generations were settling on worlds offered by former enemies. But surely there must be resistance, Zarketh said. Not everyone can be happy with these changes. You're right, Chen admitted. There are still those who prefer the old ways. Pirates who prey on peaceful traders, warlords who try to build their own little empires, slavers who see the chaos as an opportunity. And how do you deal with them? Chen's expression grew harder. We stopped them. Quickly and decisively. The display changed to show recent military actions. Human ships appeared wherever innocents were threatened, moving with the same impossible speed and efficiency they had shown during the Battle of Sol. But now they were joined by ships from other species, all working together to protect the peaceful and punish the aggressive. The old empires ruled through fear, Clickthak said. They convinced people that they had to choose between being predators or prey. Humans showed us there was a third option, which is being protectors, Battlemind Zephyr replied. Using strength to defend the weak instead of exploit them. Prince Zarketh spent the next several hours learning about the new galactic order that was emerging. It was more complex and ambitious than anything his people had ever imagined. Instead of a few powerful empires controlling everything, there were hundreds of species working together on thousands of different projects. Some groups focused on exploration, pushing the boundaries of known space and making contact with new civilizations. Others worked on scientific research, solving problems that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Still others concentrated on culture and art, creating new forms of beauty that combined the best aspects of dozens of different traditions. "What about your own species?" Chen asked him as the day drew to a close. The Zephyrian Empire was one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. "What will you do now?" Zarketh was quiet for a long moment, his crystalline form flickering with complex patterns of light. "That's what I came here to discuss. My people are divided. Some want to return to the old ways, to rebuild our military and try to reclaim our dominance. Others want to isolate ourselves, to retreat into our crystal cities and have nothing to do with the rest of the galaxy. And what do you want?" "I want us to be worthy of the mercy you showed us," Zarketh said simply. "I want us to be part of building something better instead of clinging to something that was never good enough." Chen smiled. "Then you're welcome here. The galaxy needs all the help it can get." That night, as Prince Zarketh prepared to return to his homeworld, he stood again at the viewing port of his transport. But this time he wasn't looking at human construction. He was looking at the stars themselves and thinking about the future. The Battle of Sol had ended with empires begging for mercy. But it had begun something much more important. It had begun the first truly galactic civilization, one based not on conquest and domination, but on cooperation and hope. And at the center of it all was a small blue world where a species called humanity had looked at the stars and decided that their dreams were worth fighting for. The galaxy would never be the same. As his ship entered hyperspace for the journey home, Zarketh composed his report to the Council of Crystals. He would tell them about human technology and human military might. But more importantly, he would tell them about human dreams. He would tell them that the future belonged to those brave enough to reach for it, and he would tell them that it was time for the Zephyrian Empire to learn what it meant to be part of something greater than themselves. The age of empires was ending. The age of cooperation had begun, and it all started with a species that refused to kneel,